inspired from many people. It's inspired from the love and resilience of many real people, and it's something that has been with us because I think that kind of love inspires you, and it changes you when you experience it in your own lives. And it's also it's also inspired from the love that I've seen that my mother had for my father, and I have, through this film, I've actually tried to understand that. So it's actually on various levels. It's very personal, and if you want to add to that.
So I think the first time we discussed this story was when we were film students, so that was quite a while ago. And at that time it began with a dream image that Tanushree had, which was a moment of happiness of childhood, which for the longest time was the fulcrum around the script, around which the script grew. And then at the end we didn't need that image anymore. But through the film we also kind of went back to it had a lot of strong personal connect to Tanushree, and we shot it in where she grew up and so on. But it also brought a lot of memories of my childhood. I had a friend whose father thought that he was God, who would come to our school and be upset that the son of God was being taught by normal teachers. And but my friend had a very like he really protected and was proud of his father. If anyone laughed, he would stand up for him, and said growing up I'd always wondered what
with mental distress with love, and basically to understand it with love. So
I love that idea of understanding it with love. Speaking of being a film student, Somo, correct me if I'm wrong, you started, a big part of your journey was you were selected at Berlinale Talents in 2005, right? So exactly 20 years ago.
Yes.
So this is life going full circle.
Yes.
And you had a session with Wim Wenders there.
Yes.
Who's now came to Rome. It's just a lot of wonderful coincidences.
It was very emotional for me to sit in that round table with him and many other filmmakers, and listen to him speak so generously about his experiences and his memories of working on different films. And the workshop that I had with him in 2005 was a really big turning point for me. Actually, at that time, he had made a very small film shot on a handy cam. He'd already made many of his great films, and that kind of humility was a big motivation that it was possible to make a film with very little, and gave a lot of courage, as it did last week.
I just love that, the timeline of 20 years later, you're going back to Berlin with your first fiction film. Tillotama, I want to ask you, you are of course one of the lead actors here, but you're also a producer. So I wanted to ask what changes with your engagement with the project, and why did this feel like a film where you wanted to come on as more than just an actor?
It was really Nareen's generosity and Somo and Tanushree that allowed me to come on board as a producer. And what it means for me actually is to be allowed into rooms that actors are usually not allowed into. So it increases your sense of responsibility. I think all actors should be producers, because I think that it's a training in really in humility, even though we know conceptually that it is an ensemble and an orchestra that is as good as the sum total of its parts. But when you are a producer, then you realize that there are problems despite the best planning, and you have a chance to be a part of that solution. And when you do aggressively gatekeep and not allow this kind of osmosis and a sense of porousness, in the process of making a film, you're actually getting less from an actor who's willing to give more, and it's a loss. It's a loss for everybody, I feel. So because when you know when you know how much it takes, you also know what you can give. And so to be part of, the various drafts, now you would think that now that would be so confusing for an actor to read so many drafts, but actually, intuitively, I didn't know that because it's my first. It actually helped so much because every draft lives on in you when you get on set, and it creates a subtext that actors are often trying to cram up before a shoot and create this subtext in air, but when you live with a script and a process with the filmmakers, it's all within the body, and the body remembers these things, and it comes in ways that is hard to define. And so it was incredible. It was incredible for me to even watch them edit, because I couldn't understand why a particular scene. Because I remember very clearly that day and the performance. There was a intention to hiding the vulnerability in that moment that Maya felt. But when I saw the edit, I was like, who's that? And whose performance is that? Because I remember, and now when I see it, I see a sense of vulnerability that I never experienced as an actor on set. So who did that?
Is that filmmaking in essence is quite a difficult task because films are quite expensive to mount. So we were really fortunate to find this way where we could bring on so many people, where we could spread that risk and spread that difficulty, and what became a difficult process became so much easier because there were so many people who came on in very different capacities, where we had people who were early champions of the film because they read the script, like Jim and Dheer and Shonak and Aman and so on, and then people who saw it later on the basis of the edit and came on. And people came on in a way where, of course, everyone could help just make the film practically feasible, but also came on in a way where there was a lot of, given the wealth of experience of everyone from all different sides of the aisle, from people like, for example, Bridge Postworks and Sid Mir, where you have, immense amounts of post-production support, to people who have the kind of, experience of mounting a film and taking it to the next steps after it's being made. You had the ability to then really get a supportive process where people not only bought a practical experience but also bought a wealth of like creative input into making the film the best version of itself, and also finding a way where then the film beyond its making could find all the best kind of journey forward.
Lyrically and beautifully written, I felt I could see the scenes unfolding. I didn't think there were wasted words. I thoroughly enjoyed it. On top of that, I was, as Shonak has already mentioned, a huge fan of Somo's cinematography and Tanushrী's editing and Narain's composing and Tillotama's acting, and so it just felt like a very, very easy fit, something that I wanted to support the journey of as best as I could. And as it continued to grow, more and more interesting people and fascinating, creative, talented people seem to be coming together to let this project bloom. And so I'm just grateful and glad to have been part of the journey, and I'm glad that the film is finally getting its premiere at Berlin, and I hope that this model of being able to make films like this continues. And
I think that I came. I think I'm the last person or one of the last people to get come into the. I think from Shonak and Narain and these guys are all about the script, right? And Tillotama on and Chandan on, and to be able to do. I think whenever I've spoken to both Somo and Tanushree, they are so clear that everything they wanted, they got, right? That day we were sitting with Wim Wenders and they asked him a question, and his problems were our problems. It was so heartening. At the same time, it was so disappointing because it was like how do you do this? He said, I could not shoot in the east, so I shot in the west. I did not have this, so I had to shoot like this. You know, but so the film itself is so wonderfully crafted. It's silent. There is, you know, as a filmmaker, Suchin, every day is you're fighting to not compromise. Right? You're fighting. You know, okay, you had the location for 10 hours, now you have it for 4 hours. You had this. Everything is a compromise, right? So you're just fighting to make sure that nobody catches that compromise. And I think that it's important when you're being able to have that resilience for 5, 6, 7 years, that you're still holding on to. I want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. It's very special. I think it's extremely special. So I think that's.
Saw the edit because I shot with Somo, and he said, "Can you please see my film?" I saw it. Naren very nicely then asked whether I'd like to be on board, and I asked him who all were there, and he gave me this list of like names, which just felt like, oh my god, all these people. So clearly, then FOMO. So which created by Somo. And then so you want to be on board because it's a wonderful movie, and anything for good cinema. But also, yes, I think part of it is like, what if hopefully this model works, because we all know that filmmaking is very expensive, and if you mitigate the risk, as all of us coming on board do over here, it just makes it easier and more beneficial to everybody to make a film in this sort of way. And I think something is, in a certain sort of way, kind of similar to making a student film, or you're making a first film. When I made my first film, everybody worked for free because you're all in it for the script. So yes, as Nikhil said, be resilient. Also write a damn good script, but find people who will want to be able to sort of like work with you for that. To be, great. Just find great collaborators to work with you. But I think this sort of like incremental model of having multiple people, it's kind of crowdfunding without really being crowdfunding.
Curated crowdfunding.
It's curated crowdfunding, which I guess internationally, when you have grants or you have you can raise money through small bits, which is also a way of curation as well. This is maybe the Jugaad way of doing it. It's like the Desi way of doing that. All of us are grants.